Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really complex, documentary-style story. We're looking at the life of Oscar Pistorius. It's this massive, global saga that literally touches on everything: sports, breakthrough technology, incredible fame, and ultimately, a very tragic legal case. So let's jump right in.
Right off the bat, we have to ask, how does a global sports hero become a convicted criminal? I know, it's a super dramatic question, but it hits the nail on the head when we look at Pistorius' trajectory. We're going to trace his incredible rise to absolute international fame and then his sudden, shocking fall into a really dark legal saga. It's a story about the absolute extremes of the human experience. You know, how someone can be standing on top of the world one minute and lose absolutely everything the next.
But before we go further, to really understand his story, we need to talk about his physical reality. Oscar was an amputee, which simply means a person who has had a limb removed. In his case, both of his legs were removed below the knee. So to walk and to compete, he relied on prosthetic legs, or artificial limbs. He navigated the entire world and the super intense realm of professional sports completely without his natural legs.
All right, Section 1, The Rise of the Blade Runner.
Oscar Pistorius was a South African sprint runner, and he had this fierce, undeniable desire to compete. But he really had to fight on two fronts. Yes, he was training incredibly hard physically just to run with artificial limbs. But on top of that, he had to overcome deep social barriers. He was fighting against a society that, frankly, often puts pretty strict limits on what disabled individuals can achieve. And his early story is just so inspiring because he completely shattered those expectations. He proved, for sure, that incredible athletic achievement was absolutely possible, regardless of a physical difference.
Moving on to Section 2, Making Olympic History.
All of that determination pushed him onto the ultimate stage. Picture this. It's the year 2012. That historic year, Oscar Pistorius actually became the very first double-leg amputee to ever compete in the able-bodied Olympic Games. Just take a second to think about the magnitude of that. He was lining up on the track against the absolute fastest runners on the planet. And that image was broadcast all over the world. It really changed how millions of people viewed physical impairments.
So let me ask you, do you find stories of overcoming physical adversity more inspiring than standard sports stories? I mean, how would you feel if you were told you couldn't compete because of a physical difference and then you made it to the Olympics anyway? For a lot of people watching those 2012 games, Pistorius was way more than just a runner. He became this powerful symbol of the human spirit. His mere presence challenged everything we thought we knew about what the human body can actually do.
But it wasn't all simple. Section 3, Technology versus Biology. When Pistorius ran, he used these curved carbon fiber blades for legs, and wow, did this spark an intense debate. On one side, critics were arguing that the blades provided an unfair mechanical advantage. They were worried the prosthetics basically acted like springs, doing the work of human calves and ankles, but without experiencing natural human fatigue. But then on the other side, his supporters countered that his speed came entirely from human muscles and effort, specifically his core and thighs. So the big debate was, is this prosthetic technology an unfair enhancement, or is it simply a tool that just allowed him to compete?
It forces us to ask a really critical thinking question. If technology allows a disabled athlete to run faster, is it still a level playing field? Honestly, it's a really tough question. Where exactly do we draw the line between a human achievement and a technological one? As this kind of technology keeps improving, society is going to have to figure out how to keep professional sports fair. It even got people debating if the Paralympics and Olympics should eventually just merge into one single event.
And think about the famous nickname the press gave him, the Blade Runner. Does a nickname like that focus a bit too much on the technology and not enough on the actual person? It definitely makes us question how his whole identity was shaped by the media. They put the spotlight directly on his artificial parts rather than his intense human dedication. It really shows exactly how the public viewed him during his incredible rise to fame.
Which brings us to Section 4, The Burden of Stardom.
And the tragic turn in Section 5, a dark legal saga.
You know, being an international symbol of hope comes with just crushing pressure. And often, a public persona can drastically differ from private reality. The dizzying heights of his 2012 Olympic triumph were immediately followed by events that absolutely shocked the world. Just look at how incredibly fast everything changed on this timeline. In 2012, he was the celebrated hero at the able-bodied Olympics. Then literally, just 1 year later, in 2013, the tragic killing of his girlfriend occurred. In the blink of an eye, the whole inspiring story vanished, and it was replaced entirely by a devastating criminal tragedy.
The global investigation and the trial that followed completely shattered his hero status. Ultimately, the legal process led to a high-profile murder conviction. The justice system ran its course and he was convicted. This marked an absolute tragic fall from grace for the man that the world once celebrated as the Blade Runner. The transition from global icon to convicted criminal was final.
Looking back at it all, his legacy is highly complex. We witnessed a shockingly swift shift in public opinion. A widely celebrated icon became the center of a tragic criminal case. And it leaves behind a really profound case study on fame, the incredible heights of physical empowerment, and the really dark realities of a public downfall. It forces us to look hard at themes of justice, redemption, and how society reacts when our symbols of hope fail in the most tragic ways possible.
So it leaves us with one final, provocative question to think about. How quickly does public opinion shift when a hero falls from grace? Really, how much pressure do we put on our global icons? And how do we react when their public persona just completely shatters? Thank you so much for joining this explainer today, and make sure you keep asking these difficult questions.